Guys, I need your help. You see, this is MG's all-new Gloster, which doesn't have a price tag, and it's looking to go up against stalwarts of the SUV segment like Toyota's Fortuner, Ford's Endeavour, which are priced just under 35 lakh rupees for their top-end variants. This, well, you should decide what would be a good price tag for it, and for that I'm going to tell you all about it. We have the top-end savvy variant, which is tech savvy. We'll tell you more about that later. Along with that, I'm going to tell you 10 things about the Gloster, 4 things that it could do better, and 6 things that are sure to impress you.
It's taking over, won't hide under covers. No, I'm made of thunder.
Presence. It's got it, right? And why shouldn't it? To put things in perspective, MG's Hector was big enough to walk shoulder to shoulder with the likes of the Fortuner and the Endeavour, and the Gloster is bigger still, is longer by about 80 millimeters, wider by 40 and taller by 30 millimeters.
Forget the Endeavour. The Gloster is even bigger than the Toyota Land Cruiser. And just like the Toyota, the Gloster has an old school vibe about it.
MG hasn't gone overboard in terms of detailing or making it look wild. Because of its size, it needs to do very little. If you look at the face, the slim headlamps with the full LED treatment, the fog lamps, all of it just looks sharp, and that grille with that satin finish looks really special. Even down the side, if you look at the chrome used around the windows, it looks really good. And a good measure of the size of the Gloster are the wheels. Those are 19 inches. Classy. The cabin certainly looks it, doesn't it? First and foremost, that tan leather that's been used gives it that upmarket look, and quilting on the seats. That aside, the design for the dashboard, which has lots of soft touch material, is quite handsome. In fact, if you look at the aircon vents and the physical controls for the aircon system, and the gear lever, the selector for the drive modes, and the armrest, there's a bit of a BMW vibe, isn't there? Well, I'm not complaining. But if you look at even the smaller details like the cabin lights, and well, there's even 64 color ambient lighting, it all ends up giving this cabin a very nice, cozy and classy feel. Space and comfort. There's a great dose of that here in the second row. These seats feel plush, have great little touches too, like this armrest, this adjustable headrest that kind of tilts out, which also has these wings which you can fold in, out to basically cradle your head when you want to catch a nap. And you would feel quite relaxed here because, well, space is in plenty. You've got lots of knee room, headroom, and the cabin just feels airy. So 6-footers here should be comfortable. But the real test of the spaciousness of this cabin is going to be there. But to get there, these seats, the captain seats, do not fold or tumble. So you have to walk down the middle, which even a 6-footer could do. And a 6-footer would be comfortable here as well. As you can see, there's plenty of headroom. Knee room is definitely not in short supply. And well, you've got your own aircon vents, you've got cup holders, charging points for your phone, so you could spend time here. And when you're talking about practicality, there are clever little touches across the cabin for storage, like the nifty cup holders for the second row. There's a slot for your phone storage, the door pockets are large, and up front, the storage under the armrest is large and handy as well.
And of course, the biggest storage is, well, with even 3 rows up, you can get a few overnighters in easily. But with the third row folded down flat, you get enough room to move house.
Feature packed. And if you're sitting here in the Gloster, the driver's seat, you get a lot of pampering. This seat is 12-way adjustable and it has 2 memory functions.
Even the passenger seat is 8-way power adjustable.
Well, it's ventilated so you can stay cool, and both the front seats get heating. But the driver, of course, gets a little bit more as well. There's a massage function, which is really nice and strong, so you can really relax while driving as well. And talking about making the driver feel more at ease, you have power mirrors, which also have a tilt function when you engage reverse, which makes it easier to see what's right next to you when you're reversing. And you can adjust it for the left-hand side mirror or the right-hand side mirror. And talking about the driver getting a bit more, you also get an 8-inch color MID, which is information packed and also shows you all the ADAS warnings. Aside from that, if you're talking about technology, you get a wireless phone charger, no cooling for it, so the phone will get warm. And as far as the infotainment system is concerned, there's a 12.3-inch HD display, which really looks good. The graphics are well done, the fonts look right. But the really cool part about this iSmart system now is... Hello MG.
Hi, how can I help?
Close window.
Window on drive side is closed.
It's feeling properly responsive. Of course, the Gloster is also trying to keep the rest of the occupants happy, which is why you have a 3-zone climate control. And the really cool bit about it is the second row's dedicated menus also get, of course, blower control, temperature control, and mode control. So you can direct air towards your feet or towards your face.
And the massive panoramic sunroof lights up the entire cabin.
Convenience and safety. Of course, the Gloster, like you would expect, has all the stability systems and the airbag count for a vehicle of this size. But that aside, it gets something extra, safety tech that you normally see in much more expensive cars. For starters, there's the blind spot warning system, which basically flashes a light there when it senses a vehicle in the lane next to you, telling you to not change lanes at that point. And talking about changing lanes, a lot of the ADAS features are being enabled by a camera that's mounted up here. It reads the road up ahead, the markings on the road, so if you end up making a lane change without indicating, it will warn you. So that's called lane departure warning. And then there is adaptive cruise control. What that does is, like cruise control would, lets you cruise around at a speed that you set, but it will also slow down when it senses a slow vehicle up ahead. And when the road opens up, it'll accelerate up again to the preset speed. That is handy. What will be particularly handy in the city is the AEB, which is the automatic emergency braking. This, when it senses a collision, will automatically apply the brakes to prevent it from happening or to at least reduce the force of it. It works with four-wheelers and at speeds above 40 kilometers an hour. Hopefully you don't ever need that, but one thing you will definitely need is the semi-autonomous parking system. Now this works by you pressing the button here, and the sensors on the car read the parking spots available, and when it finds a spot in which the Gloster can fit, it will notify you on the MID. You stop, then follow its instructions, which is basically to engage the gears and to brake. And before you know it, it's done. It makes parking the Gloster pretty easy, but it can feel nerve-wracking. It's breezy to drive. Yes, a vehicle of this size. First and foremost, because of the basics. The seating position is commanding. The view out of the cabin, the large windows give you a great sense of confidence. Even those large mirrors are very helpful, although you do have to manage its width when you're inside the city because of that. What also helps the Gloster is the steering, which is light and precise. Might not have that much feel, but it helps to make it feel quite car-like to drive. And if you find the right road, narrow, twisty, yes, it does roll. It is a ladder frame SUV, it's big, it's heavy. So it does that a bit, but it stays neat and doesn't feel cumbersome. And when it comes to the large SUV quotient, of course you expect the Gloster to clobber potholes, which it does beautifully actually.
There's independent suspension all around, and that promises sophisticated ride comfort too.
The suspension has a suppleness to it, and the way it just soaks up bad roads is pleasantly surprising. And it doesn't just feel that over really bad roads, it does that even on the highway. It just glides over imperfections or potholes, making it that much more enjoyable for longer journeys. And if you're talking about driving around in the city, that's probably the only place where you feel a bit of that ladder frame caution, because at lower speeds over lightly broken roads, it does feel a bit jittery, but definitely something that you will not mind. And finally, the engine. The Gloster is only going to be offered with a 2-litre diesel. This is going to come in 2 states of tune. The lower variants are likely to get a single turbo variant, whereas the higher variants will get a more powerful twin turbo version. Now, both the configurations will come with an automatic gearbox. This is that gem, the 8-speed from ZF. And the combination of the engine and gearbox make the Gloster feel, honestly, well, much lighter in the way it drives.
This is the most powerful engine in the class, and it feels like it.
In the city, you won't have to mash down on the accelerator to get it going. Just a gentle prod, you get the torque from the engine, quick shifts from the gearbox, and off you go. On the highway too, it cruises beautifully. The Gloster also comes with drive modes. So for the city, you could use the Eco mode for more calm commuting. Then there's the Auto mode, and then there's the Sport mode. The Sport, of course, makes the throttle a bit more responsive, the gearbox a little bit more urgent, which means if you're in a hurry, you can definitely use that. And then of course you have the paddle shifts if you want to take manual control and drive a little bit harder. Now, of course, this is an SUV, so what about off-roading? Now, considering that this doesn't have a low-range gearbox, you wouldn't expect it to be as hardcore off-road as its other rivals. But it does have electronic aids, the drive mode, so the usual snow, sand and mud, to make it a little bit more handy when driving through the rough stuff.
Now, what could the Gloster do better? Well, truth be told, this might sound like a little bit of nitpicking.
Design. Some things are a bit tacky, like the Gloster badging large and spread out over the tailgate, the Internet Inside badge, and well, if you stick to the rear end, those 4 tailpipes sticking out look cool, right? Metal as well. But if you look inside, there are just 2 exits for the exhaust. And if you look down the side, Brit Dynamic. This Gloster doesn't have a very stiff upper lip, does it? Seating comfort. Now, of course, in the third row, we're not expecting great helpings of under-thigh support, but if there was a little bit of a kick up to the seat base, you would stay better in place. But the bigger grouse I really have is with the footroom. It's really quite cramped here, and it's not just the problem of the third row. Even in the second row, if you had a bit more footroom, you would have been able to really lounge around, and the Gloster would have set a new high benchmark for passenger comfort for SUVs. Plastic quality. You could blame the leather, how plush it looks and feels around the cabin, but the plastics actually feel a bit budget in comparison. Take the aircon vents here, for instance. Not the most plush. The speaker grill. This feels a bit plasticky. And well, the larger speaker grill here and the lower door pad, the grain used for it and the finish just feels a little old. Even the steering wheel, it has a nice finish to the switches, but the way they click don't feel that well damped. Finishing touches. The easiest one I can show you is right here. Look at this key. There are no white markings on for the switches, which means if you're looking at this in the dark, it's really hard to tell what you're pressing. Of course, you can get used to that, pretty much like this home button, which is again impossible to spot when it's dark because it has no backlight. And talking about the screen, this is a good looking screen, but the touch responsiveness at times can be slow. And talking about the infotainment, the 12-speaker sound system, well, it seems impressive and the sound quality is good, but not as impressive or as immersive and rich as the Infinity system that we've experienced in the Hector.
While you do have a cool 360-degree camera with different views, the resolution for the reversing camera is very poor.
Okay, so we are done with the nitpicking, and the end impression of the Gloster is impressive. You can see that it rides well, it drives well, it's easy to live with, and is really spacious and comfortable and really feature loaded. And with the ADAS systems, it's really setting a new benchmark when it comes to the features and the safety aspects that you can have in the SUV segment. So where do you think it's going to be priced? I'll give you a clue. This top-end Savvy variant will be under 40 lakhs, probably around 38. And as for the lower Sharp variant, which will still be loaded with features and go head-to-head with the likes of the Endeavour and Fortuner, is likely to be priced to scare them a bit. Sounds interesting?
There are shortcomings, but MG's formula of offering a lot of wow quotient at a bargain price has worked for the Hector. Could it work for the Gloster too? We'll know only when the prices are out in the middle of October.